This tutorial will teach you how to clean up the previous Win32 code by creating a class to handle its creation and running. It's also nice to refresh our memory on Win32 window creation in glorious HD with a decent microphone for a change. For setting up the Direct3D SDK with Visual Studio 2010, please refer back to my previous tutorial. It's only a couple of minutes long and it will get you set up for the rest of the tutorials. Now, the reason we use C++ and not C as a programming language is for its ability to easily use object-oriented programming. If you haven't previously come across object-oriented programming, then you will still understand the tutorial, but it's for the best to go look up object-oriented programming. There's many different techniques, all of which are very useful under the right circumstances. The reason we're about to create a class for handling our Win32 window is so we can access anything we need from our window without needing to write a whole heap of code to do so, or needing to track every single bit of our code. Besides, once we start using Direct3D, our code file is going to get huge and we're not going to get anything done. So, right click the project and we're going to add a new class, a C++ class, and then we need to press add here. Our class name is going to be C application, and then we click finish and Visual Studio will generate us two new files, one a header file and one a CPP file with our name in it. Now, in our header file, we're going to need to create some public functions and some private variables and functions. First though, we need to import Windows, so we need to #include windows.h. And we're also going to need the string library, which is include string. Right, so our public functions that we need to declare here are initialize, which takes our handle to an instance, which is our h instance, a long pointer to a string, cmd line, and the cmd show. We need to create a load window function. This will take a const string, and that's going to be our window title. We're also going to need size on the X, size on the Y, and also our X position and Y position. We need to create a run function, and finally a close function. You'll notice initialize looks fairly familiar. We're going to be calling that in our WinMain function to set up the class instance. Load window will create the window handle and set the title, size and position. Run is literally going to start our main game loop, and close is going to signal the program to close. Now we need to create some private variables. These are a window handle. We're going to call that m_window handle. We're going to need an instance handle, h instance, and m_instance handle. Going to use that int m cmd show, and also a long pointer to a string, which is our m command line. Those are all our command line parameters that we're going to be receiving. We also want to declare a private WND proc function for handling our messages. Now, this is going to have to be static, so our function is able to be called by Windows. Now, this is static L result callback WND proc window handle hwnd uint message wparam and an lparam. Okay, first of all, I want to set that to a bool. Now, in our application.cpp file, we're going to define our functions. So, a bool C application initialize using h instance, lpstr, cmd align, and int cmd show. Now, all we're going to be doing in here is setting our member variables based on what we've just been given by Windows. So set our instance handle to the h instance command line to cmd line, and our cmd show to cmd show. Right, now for our load window function, which is going to be roughly the same code as we've used before in the Win32 programming tutorials, but there's going to be a few minor differences. So I'm just going to copy that function definition there, paste it in here, add C application to the front of it, and we need to create a WND class EX, WND. We need to zero the memory on that. So reference to WND and size of WND class EX. We need to set the size of the class. So WND.cb size is equal to size of WND class X. The style, which is CSH redraw, CSV redraw. We need to set our cursor. So H cursor is load cursor, null, and IDC arrow. We want to set our background, which is HBR background is equal to cast this as a H brush color underscore window. We need to set the Windows class name, which is LPSZ class name, and we're just going to set that to an arbitrary string window class name. Now for the different part of loading the window, we want to set our WND proc to our newly created static WND proc function. To do that, WND.LPFN WD proc is equal to, and cast this WND proc. We need to give it our class name, so C application : WND proc. Now we also need to give it the instance handle, which we've nicely stored up in the initialize function, which means we set H instance to M underscore instance handle. Now we need to register the class. Register class EX. Give it a reference to our new window. Now to create the window, we want to store the window returned by the create window function in our class instance. So we do M underscore window handle is equal to create window. Now we're going to use the same window class name. We're now going to name the window after our window title parameter. Now to do this, we do window title dot C underscore str, which gets our C string from the string data type. And now we set the WS overlapped window. We can now set our position X and Y based on the parameters as well, pos X and pos Y. The same with our width and height, size X, size Y. We don't need a parent, we don't need a menu. We pass it our instance handle, so M underscore instance handle, and one last 0. We need to show the window, so M window handle, and our M cmd show. We need to update the window. I seriously cannot type today. M underscore window handle, and finally return true to say everything has gone fine. We need to create our run function. This is just a standard message loop and it's going to quit out when it needs to. So we're going to again go back to here, copy over run, put C application in front of it, : expand this out, create a new message with the MSG data type, 0 the memory in that, so reference to message and size of MSG. We need to do a while msg.message is not equal to wm quit, we want to peek at the message. So while peek message, pass it our message, give it null, OU, and PM remove. We want to translate the message, give it our message instance, and dispatch the message. Again, a reference to our message. Oh, spell that wrong. Finally, from this function, return 0. We're just going to add a normal close function for now. We'll fill it in later. So bool c application colon close, and we're just going to return true from here. And finally, just fill out the WND proc function like normal. I'm going to go back to application, copy this. Just going to paste it in here. We just want to add our C application to the front of that. Add our switch using the message, our default case, which is going to return the default window proc. We pass the HWD, the message, the W param, the L param. Just going to add a return 0 down there. And we're also going to handle a case of WM destroy. So case WM destroy. Post quit message, and break out of that. Now back in our main.cpp file, as you can see, I've already filled out this API entry WinMain. All we need to do to get a window running is to add a few simple lines of code. Now first, we need to include our application. So #include application.h. In the WinMain function, all we need to do, create our C application. We're going to call that window, initialize the window, and we're going to put that in an if statement, just in case in future you do want to check what's going into the initialize function and return false if you don't want to actually proceed with creating the window. So if window.initialize, I'm going to pass that to the instance, I'm going to pass the lpcmd line, and also the n show cmd. We're now going to load the window, again using an if statement in case you want to fall out of loading the window if something goes wrong. So if window.load window, we're going to give it a title of my swanky new window. We're going to give it an X size of 800, a Y size of 600, and we're going to position it somewhere on my screen. And then if load window goes all right, we're going to return window.run. Then below that, just return 0 in case something does go wrong, and run. There's my swanky new window. And just close that. So now all we need to do to load up our window is call 4 lines of code, and that's it. So if you like the tutorial or you want to see more, just click like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next tutorial.